Hey there! Thank you so much for hanging with me here. We're having some technical difficulties, but I believe we're all set up now in order to have today's training. I did lose internet over on my computer, so if you were joining me there, I apologize. I think we're all set up here, but if you are watching this, would you just let me know that you are able to hear me okay? I am, as you can see, moved over into a different headset and just want to make sure I've done what I needed to do in order for you to be able to hear me. Hopefully that's the case. Looks like we have a few people joining us. So again, if you can hear me, just let me know by maybe giving me a thumbs up there in the comments or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and dive in hopes that you can, in fact, hear me. So today we're talking about a really, really important topic, what to do when you have more than one niche. This is something I talk to a lot of my clients about. They'll come to me and say, hey, there are two audiences. There are two populations I really like to serve. There are two issues that I really like to help clients solve. And ultimately we call these, right, two different types of niches, maybe even three niches. What do you do in that case? Because you don't want to alienate one niche over the other. You want to be an expert in both, but you don't want to water down what it is that you do. And it can ultimately add kind of this layer of complexity to how you find clients and ultimately how you grow your practice. And so today I really want to chat through that with you, to give you some of the advice I give to my own clients in this circumstance, and kind of walk you through the process that you need to think about if in fact you serve more than one population in your practice. The very first thing to kind of know is that this is all based around the thought that you have two, maybe three niches maximum. If you are looking at your practice and you feel like maybe you serve 3, 4, 5 different types of populations, that's probably a sign that your niche and that your practice is being a little bit ambitious and that you're likely a little bit too broad. It can be really, really challenging to position yourself as an expert in more than just a handful of things. So if you love to talk, to, work with children, teens, adults, people walking through grief, people with disordered eating, if it's a very kind of jumbled group of populations, then do some work to really identify, okay, who can I help most? What do I feel energized doing the most? And that can kind of help you start to distill out, okay, what is the 2, again, maybe 3 niches that I can really serve in an excellent way? What types of clients can I really, really help? So that's what we're diving into today. If you are joining me live, please say hello in the comments. Hopefully you're hearing me. If you're catching the replay, please drop a hashtag replay into the comments. That will make sure that I see any questions you may have and make sure that you have everything you need as you think about what to do with kind of this multi-niche situation. We have a ton of new members in this group. I'm so happy that you're here. If this is your first time catching a video with me, my name's Anna Walker. I am a web and marketing strategist for private practitioners, just like you, and I help you get booked out with clients you love and who love you. We do that here in a way that's not just effective, but also authentic, because we believe that good marketing comes from who you are as a therapist, the great work that you do, and we never want marketing or ultimately finding clients to feel salesy or slimy or disingenuine, and so that is a lot of what we do here. So again, thank you so much for being here. Let's dive into what to do when you have more than one niche. Step 1 here, you may or may not have done this in the past, is to profile your ideal clients. Ideal clients is plural there because if you have multiple niches, that means you have multiple ideal clients. Say your 2 niches are perhaps couples therapy and individual therapy. You need to create an ideal client profile for your ideal client for couples therapy and your ideal client for individual therapy. Hopefully this is an exercise that you've thought about before or maybe even gone ahead and written down. Maybe you have a document somewhere that details these types of things. Make sure that you're identifying things like, why is this person coming to therapy? What's the tipping point for this person? The tipping point for someone that is a good candidate for couples therapy is going to be different than someone who's a candidate for, individual therapy for something like depression or anxiety. On the couple side, that might be a massive blow up with their spouse. That would be the tipping point there that would lead them to therapy. Whereas depression and anxiety, someone walking through that as an individual, their tipping point might be feeling like they're, getting talked to at work because their productivity has dropped so much, or, really walking through a season of not wanting to get out of bed. It's a different type of tipping point. So think about what it is that is leading them to ultimately seek therapy finally, right? They've probably been wrestling with some challenges until then. Think about what type of transformation they're looking for. This is something we talk about a lot in this group, that when someone decides to look for therapy, when any of us decide to make a decision that involves handing over our hard-earned money, we're ultimately looking to become a better version of ourselves. What is the better version of themselves that this ideal client wants to be? Again, if we use that example, couples therapy, the better version of themselves they're wanting to be is a happier spouse, a better partner, more at peace at home. That's the better version of themselves they want to be there. And individuals walking through anxiety or depression, they're looking for they just want to feel some hope, right? They want to wake up in the morning with purpose. They want to feel like they can have healthy relationships. Those are the types of transformations that you're looking for. So step one, again, I really just want you to bullet out, describe to yourself what your ideal client, who is the ideal perfect fit client for each of your different niches. That's going to help you start to understand, okay, how they're distinct, but then also how they're the same. So that leads us to step two. Step two in this process is to identify what we call a red thread for your practice. A red thread is what is true about both of your ideal clients. For using that example of couples therapy and of individual therapy, what might be the same between these two people is that they really, really crave healthy relationships. There's a red thread for us. It might be that they are the same age group. You might work with young couples that have, been married or together for less than 10 years. And you might be looking at more of kind of the millennial, early career adults. So maybe they're the similar age. These are the types of red threads you can start to identify, but that only happens, right, if you've gone through exercise number 1 and started to really profile who these people are. Then, as kind of a Venn diagram, you look at where do they overlap. That overlap is what we call those red threads. We call that the theme of your practice. That's at the very, very foundation of your practice. So there, you're going to do some work identifying, okay, how are these people the same? Obviously, there's a lot that's different about them, but how can I talk to both of these people at the same time and make sure that they're feeling heard? It's talking about things like relationships. It's talking about things like being early in your career and how your marriage might be affecting that, or how depression might be affecting that. You find this middle lane that both of them can overlap in, and all of a sudden you have an identity for your practice that's still niched, that's still specific, but doesn't alienate either of these groups. In fact, it attracts both of these groups because you've done the hard work of realizing, okay, this is what both of these people share. So that's step 2. So number 1 was profiling your ideal client, really talking about what if there's no red thread. Great question, Tracy. Kids versus adults, another awesome one. So if you maybe you do play therapy. Actually, I just worked with a client in Philadelphia who does play therapy for kids and does therapy for young adults, for young women. Those seem very, very disparate, right? There isn't a whole ton of overlap. So we started to kind of dive in through a couple exercises. We started to identify, okay, what is it that these children and their parents are really, really looking for? What is it that these, young women are really, really looking for? How do I help them? And ultimately, we landed on the fact that we are helping them understand their inner child, whether they are grown or still a child themselves. And she was helping them walk through trauma-related incidents that may have occurred in their past. So that was her red thread, was even though the populations, like your example, kids versus adults, Tracy, there was still a place that these two overlapped, and that's where we started. So we talked about things like trauma therapy for these people. And then on the individual pages for each of these niches, which I'm going to get into, that's where she could be really specific about your inner child as an adult versus, your child as they are right now as an 8-year-old that's struggling, with walking through some really hard seasons. So I hope that's helpful. Tracy, if you have more questions, feel free to drop them and we'll continue to chat through them. So those first 2 steps, profile your ideal client and then identify a red thread. Where is the overlap? It might be in the way that you serve them. It might be in their age group or what is important to these people, but ultimately there is a way that both these overlap because you're able to serve both of them, right? Your skill set allows you to do that. And so we know that there's a way that these guys are tied together. We just need to identify what that is. So step 3 is to reflect this theme in the homepage of your website. You might be one of those people that purchased the website bundle from the Private Practice Copy Shop last week during the launch week. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, head to walkerstrategyco.com/shop. There is a full bundle that includes copy and layouts for your homepage, your about page, and your specialty pages. If you have multiple niches, you may be opening up those templates and wondering, okay, where do I talk about this niche? Where do I talk about that one? On your homepage is where this theme goes. That's where we start calling out those red threads. The reason for that is a homepage needs to attract and connect with everyone that fits your practice, right? So you have to kind of lead with, okay, what do both of these people have in common, before then you go ahead and do some of the work in order to start sort of teasing them out and bringing them where they need to go. T, great question. What if you don't or haven't figured out your niche? That's a really, really wonderful place to start. I've done some trainings here in the group about niching, and I'm actually working right now on kind of like a worksheet workbook that can help you walk through that. T, after this training, I will go ahead and tag you in the one that I've done here about niching, but that's a really fundamental place to start. Really, again, I could do a whole entire training just on this, but my suggestion here, T, is if you don't feel like you've identified your niche, the first question to ask yourself is, who is the person that I can serve best in my practice? Who have I enjoyed the most when I look back at, past clients? If you haven't yet served any clients, maybe you're brand new in private practice, then you think, who would I love to fill my practice with? As you start to identify what it is that those people are struggling with, what it is that you will do in order to serve them, some niches will start to kind of bubble up to the top, and you can continue, start doing some research and some work around, does this make sense to actually build my practice around? So that's kind of my guidance there. Let's get back though to your website. So if you purchased the a bundle, or maybe you're looking at your homepage and wondering, okay, I do need to serve 2 people here. What do I do? Make the theme of your practice, those red threads we talk about, make that the theme of your homepage. So you need to talk about these things that both of these people share in places like your homepage, since both ideal clients are going to be landing there. Then this is again why having specialty pages on your website is so critical. Then have a page on your website, a specialty page dedicated to each niche. This is important for a lot of reasons. We talk about specialty pages a lot in this group. One of the big reasons this is so important is because that is what's going to actually show the ideal client for couples therapy or the ideal client for individual therapy that you do in fact understand all of the nuances of what it is that they're struggling with. Not just that they care about career things and that relationships are important to them, but it's on the specialty page for couples therapy that you can talk about, did you just have a big blow up with your spouse? Are you tired of feeling alone in your marriage? Do you want help finally reconciling and, enjoying the love that you felt all that, what felt like so long ago when, your relationship was starting? That's where you can talk really, really specifically to these people. So if you have separate niches, you need to have separate pages that talk to these people one-to-one, where you call out all of those nuances that you found in step 1, where you were profiling those people. Of course, specialty pages are also critical for SEO. And if you serve individual niches, that means that there are kind of 2 different SEO experiences happening out there. What I mean by that is that you have couples therapy candidates typing in certain things into Google and wanting to find you, and you have individual therapy or whatever your other niche is. You have those types of clients typing things into Google and hoping to find you. You need to be able to show up for both of those, and that is where your specialty pages come in. If someone goes into Google and types couples therapy in Nashville, you would hope that they would find you, right? And we would hope that they would land on your couples page where you can really talk one-to-one to those people. Again, in the same vein, if someone is typing in, counseling for depression in Nashville, we want them to land on your page dedicated to individuals with depression. That is why having specific specialty pages is so critical. So if right now on your website, you have a single services page that just bullets out what it is that you do, you're missing out on clients because you're not showing them, hey, I get all of those nuances. I understand what the tipping points are. I understand what you're struggling with. And you're not letting Google show you, help you appear in results for both of those different types of searches. So I hope that's helpful for you. So step 1 is to profile your ideal client. Step 2 is to identify your red threads in order to really find a theme for your practice. Number 3 is to implement this into your website where your homepage is dedicated to the theme of your practice. It's slightly more higher level, but you drive people to those individual specialty pages that are dedicated to each of your niches. And then last but not least, so now you've done this here and you're ready to go ahead and start marketing your practice in a larger way. You have identified who your client is, you know what makes you unique, and you know where this overlap exists. You've updated your website. Now what? Now you look at the behaviors of these different ideal clients and you think to yourself, what is different here? I was just talking with a really talented therapist in Chicago just this past weekend, and she serves two very distinct niches. She serves patients who are recovering from bariatric surgery, and she serves first responders. Now, if she's here in step 4, she can ask herself, how do first responders find me and ultimately become aware of me and decide to work with me? And how do, bariatric surgery patients find me or become aware of me? Those are they're very distinct. First responders are doing things like going into Psychology Today. Bariatric patients are being almost exclusively referred to her by physicians. What does that mean for her? That means her Psychology Today profile can be totally tailored to first responders because she knows that her other niche, those people aren't finding her in that way. Similarly, she can decide, okay, talking to physicians, making connections with healthcare providers in my area is critical to bring in this other niche. And so she can tailor all of those conversations to bariatric surgery patients. So you can see here how if you start to understand the behaviors and the nuances of your different ideal clients, you can ask yourself, where are these people finding me and what can I be doing in my marketing in order to attract them and bring them to my website and show them I'm the one for them? And what is different about this client and where I can do that? Now, if you're finding that, well, they both look at Psychology Today, that's okay too. That again is where the theme of your practice comes in. That is where you use your Psychology Today profile you are going to specifically call out both of those individual niches that you serve. You'll call out the couples counselor and the couples counseling and the individual counseling for depression, but you can use those themes you identified in step 2 to kind of be the red thread throughout your entire Psychology Today profile to still show them, hey, I get you, and ultimately drive them and invite them to jump over into your website and to learn more about the specifics of that one service or niche that you provide. That is the 4-step process that I take my clients through as we think about multiple niches. So number 1, profile your ideal clients. Number 2, identify the red threads here in order to really find a theme for your practice. What is true for every type of client I want to serve? That theme then you're going to bring into the homepage of your website so that it makes sense no matter what ideal client lands on your website. It makes sense to them and starts to foster that connection and shows them that you understand them. Then you create individual specialty pages on your website dedicated to each of those niches where you can get really specific into the nitty-gritty of one client versus the other. And then last but not least, you ask yourself, what is different about how these people behave and how these people find therapy, and how can that direct my marketing? Who can I be targeting in this marketing method versus this one? Is one ideal client more likely to use social media and another one isn't? Then that leads you, okay, my social media can be a little bit directed in this area. So that can start to show you what it is that you need to do as far as marketing goes and how you can tailor your marketing to one niche or the other, depending on how they're most likely to find you. That's my 4-step process. Tracy, I see here you have a question. Should your language be tailored to reference if your clients aren't going to seek out their services on their own, i.e. to parents instead of kids? I'm so glad you asked this question, Tracy. This is a conversation I have with quite a few different clients. Yes. The answer here is yes. If you serve kids, I should actually do a training just on this, that if you work with kids, some really strong marketing tips. But the number one thing is that right there, Tracy, that your language, if you serve children, if you serve teenagers, has to be directed at parents. That means that you don't just say, hey, I get kids. Hey, mom, I get you. I get that right now you feel like you're not a very good parent and I can help you do that. Or is your teen driving you absolutely bonkers? Do you feel like they're unmanageable and you're not sure what to do? All of a sudden, you're not just saying, hey, I'm an expert in teens. I'm an expert in you, mom. I'm an expert in you, dad. And I can help not just solve the problems that your kid or your teen is experiencing. I can help solve the problems you're experiencing. So Tracy, I'm so glad you called that out. Such a good thing to know and to realize that if you serve a population that has a kind of a decision maker that isn't themselves, you need to show you don't understand just your client's problems, but also the problems of the decision maker that's leading them to go ahead and look for therapy on behalf of someone. Really glad you asked that. Guys, thank you so much for your engagement here. Thank you for your questions. I hope that this was helpful for you. Really, this begins with understanding who your client is. And the beauty of that is you will just continue to get better at this as you're in practice, as you learn, who it is that you like to serve and who it is that you wouldn't like to serve. This profile will continue to evolve and mature, and that is okay. It is okay if your marketing, if your website, if those things continue to kind of just respond to who you are as a practitioner, who it is that you like to serve. You'll just continue to get better at this, and you'll continue to connect with people in this really powerful way that shows them, hey, I am an expert in the problems that you're experiencing, and I can help you solve them. If you have more questions, feel free to drop them into the comments. I would love to chat some more with you. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I cannot wait to be back next week for the training. I'll talk to you soon.